Hey, welcome to the channel, and I just want to talk about why I personally think MK11 is better than MK1. And I know this topic has been talked about a lot in the content creation space especially, but it's odd to me, very odd, how, from a Mortal Kombat fan's perspective at least, how the downgrade from MK11 to MK1 was so noticeable from the beginning. You know, I think everyone talked about during the first trailers or the gameplay reveals how the game just looked worse and like from a visual standpoint. And I still think that to this day. You know, I think it has a different visual style than MK11, but that's what I thought at first. But the more I play, it just looks graphically downgraded. And from a PC player's perspective as well. I mean, I played both games at 1440p max settings. You know, when MK1 should look better, but I don't know, at least to me it just doesn't, especially during gameplay. It just doesn't look as cinematic per se. But I just want to talk about how it's just disheartening to see the franchise go the way it's at. We're all seeing the Netflix deals with Warner Bros. Discovery, and I think we all know that that might turn out to be really bad or really good, and you know, the Mortal Kombat movie being delayed and the Legacy Collection just launching in a really horrible state. And it all leads to just corporate greed. I think the biggest downfall of MK1 was honestly it being rushed out the door. You know, they say they developed the game for 4 years, but what I think about is that they were developing Injustice 3 for maybe 2 years or 3. And then they had to just change course because of the downfalls of Warner Bros. You know, with Suicide Squad especially, them losing out millions by that game's flop. And it's just, it's bad. It's bad. The first launch, all the bugs in MK1, how they didn't even, excuse me, they didn't even have, you couldn't toggle buttons on the screen. I think we all remember that. You know, to practice, you couldn't just see the inputs on the screen to practice. They had to patch that in, I don't know, what, some days or a week later, which is ridiculous. And all the copious amounts of bugs, and from a PC player standpoint, the amount of performance issues at launch. Like, I personally kept on getting a video memory error bug as well at the time. I had like a 8 gig GPU, I think it was like a 2060 Super. So maybe I was kind of thinking, that's just lower settings. But no. No matter what, I could be on 1080p low, and the game will still crash, saying it's running low on video memory, and myself just having to troubleshoot a lot of issues that should have been not there at launch. You know, I think from a PC player standpoint, I would assume a fighting game would just run smoothly, but that just hasn't been the case for MK1, and I was also talking about between MK11 and MK1, which is vastly different experiences. For MK11, it's just a complete package as a whole, and it just feels good to play. You know, the gameplay is solid. It has multiple modes. You know, story mode, Towers of Time, even AI battles, which that's a bad mode, but at least it's there, right? And from an online perspective, it has lobbies, rooms, King of the Hill, ranked, online practice. Well, MK1 didn't launch with rooms, lobbies, or online practice at all, which is just ridiculous. And let's not forget, MK11 had crossplay. Pretty much like partial crossplay between PS4 and Xbox. Essentially from the start. Well, it took like, what, until February of later that year for them to add in crossplay to MK1, which is just crazy. Like, I think we could all tell the package was overall just very incomplete, and it was just, it feels bad. It feels, especially when you consider taking the price of the game. You're paying $110 for the Ultimate Edition Deluxe, what have you, and $70 for the base. To just get a half-ass fighting game like that feels bad. Like, my brother and I both bought the deluxe edition, very excited for this entry of the game. No, we're Mortal Kombat fans. I'm more so a fan than he is. He's more on the casual side. And barely anything. You know, waiting a whole year, if not a bit longer, just for all of Combat Pack 1. It's just ridiculous. Like, they're milking that to the absolute brim. And when you look at the game from the base point value, you know, how it started at launch, all you had was a story mode, classic towers, invasions, which was the worst mode they've ever made. I've never played anything so bad. Then you had, you know, not even the crypt, which is a classic mode that's been an MK since I think the 3D era. It's just, it's pretty bad. Like, instead of the crypt, they had invasions in the shrine, which that couldn't be more lazy. It's it's so ugh, I hated it. I never forget first booting up the game, looking at all the modes, and thinking, what the hell is this barren wasteland? Especially like the shrine, that is the laziest thing they've ever done in this game. All you do is just spin your coins and you get a reward. Nothing special to it whatsoever. And speaking of shrines, the warrior shrine, biggest disappointment in this game by far. They were hyping that up so hard, like coming soon, the warrior shrine. Everyone's wondering, what could it be? Could it be something to get past combat league skins? Could it be some new multiplayer mode? But no, it's simply just, you know, if you make it in the top of the leaderboard, you just become a statue in the game. Like, hey, you were like a top player this season. And which is cool. If it would have been there from the start, I don't think anyone would have cared. But the fact that it took them months to put that out, a basic feature that every game has, is just ridiculous. I'm just like, wow, like this can't be happening. And it's just very disappointing, honestly. As a Mortal Kombat fan, MK1 has been very disappointing for me. Very disappointing as a whole package. You know, I think gameplay wise, it's pretty fun. As a whole, like at its base, gameplay wise, Mortal Kombat 1 is very fun. But then you're adding cameos, which I personally think were one of the biggest mistakes. I think how they should have handled cameos. There should have been a just a game mode for casual players, right? I personally don't think that should have ever been in competitive play, especially for someone like me, who I'm not going to say I'm like a pro player. I'm obviously not. I tend to assume I play games at a pretty high level. You know, I know what I'm doing, so intermediate to high. And I mean, it's just ridiculousness with the cameos. We all remember the striker meta, to where you just do unsafe move on block, get covered by striker, do unsafe move again, get covered by striker. And then with the Kung Lao meta, just throwing the hat, infinite zoning, infinite mix, essentially. It would come back incredibly fast. It was just bad. Like, NRS, I just wish they would stop with the gimmicks. I think it's definitely Ed Boon. He just has to have that gimmick in his game. And I personally I'm thinking, why not be more like Street Fighter and Tekken, right? Well, Street Fighter more so than Tekken. Tekken 8 is a whole different can of worms. But Street Fighter, they always kind of stick to how their games play. They don't stray too far from the path of what their longtime players have known and loved. While MK over here, they're doing something new every game, you know? I think with MKX, a variation system, MK11, they kind of expanded upon variation system that is kind of half-assed, admittedly. But at least the core gameplay still feels very Mortal Kombat. But then you have MK1, to where the core gameplay actually is very good. But then you just have the cameo fighters on top, and I just think it's far too much. You know, there's a lot of mods on PC. I think with MK Hook, you can mod the game to where you can play it without cameos. And it just, every character can do stuff. They don't need cameo fighters. It just felt very unnecessary. And I know I did say, you know, it would have been fine if they would have made cameos a separate casual mode. But in my opinion, thinking about it, I just think of all the time they could have used on the actual game if they wouldn't have had cameos. You know, it just added a lot of mess to everything. You know, an already very broken, buggy game. And it's just bad as a Mortal Kombat fan. And the support, once again, I think we all remember the interview Ed Boon had, like, I think it was before the game launched, or a little bit after. Him looking so excited, like, yeah, we're going to support this game for years to come, you know. But I think we all, obviously that's not the case. That's not the case. I mean, yeah, Chaos reigns, but that was an absolute dud. Excuse me. Like, it flopped so hard. You know, and I personally, I think the package itself was actually quite nice. I think the biggest reason was the price. The price of Chaos Reigns was far too steep. $50 for a really poor DLC story and 3 characters at launch. I mean, yes, you do get skins and all that stuff, you know, premium skins, and a whole lot of other story skins as well. But no, I think they should have sold it for $20, 20 to 30 at most 30 for like all of the DLC characters with exclusive skins included, you know, premium store skins included, and with the story being free for everyone to play, just to try out new Cybot, Sector, Cyrax. I think that would have given people a lot more incentive to buy the combat pack, saying, oh, you know, Noob's really fun. Oh, Cyrax is awesome. She has these mixes and the Vortex. Oh, I like Sector zoning. Gotten possibly some interesting players like, oh my god, Sector, she's the best. But, yeah. When I think of MK1, its life cycle, me playing it from the beta days, you know, with Sub-Zero and Frost and Liu Kang, Sonya in the beta, just messing around people. It's had a very rocky road, and it's very disheartening and sad to see, you know, Mortal Kombat 1 just dying, essentially. You know, I kind of held out hope for the game with Ed Boon saying they're going to continue patching it and updating it, but we haven't gotten a new patch in Mortal Kombat 1 in weeks. I mean, sorry, not weeks, months. You know, and it's just very, very bad. This is very bad. You know, I think Mortal Kombat 1 is in its final state currently. I don't think it's getting any more updates. We've already seen like final tier lists from, you know, pro players like Connie Mani and YouTubers like True Underdog. Because I think we all know Mortal Kombat 1 was just it more or less dead on arrival. You know, a lot of people held out hope. You see all those copium videos saying the game's saved every time something new would come out. But I think we all know that the game was pretty much done. You know, they more or less betrayed their casual audience and their competitive audience. Casual more so than competitive, to be honest. Because, I mean, the lack of just a complete package. The only thing you can mostly do in MK1 before Tower's Time, which was like a year later, but the only thing you really had was online. And even that was half-assed to the fullest. No rooms, still no rooms to this day. No lobbies, just only King of the Hill, Combat League, and casuals. And of course, you have your private matches to invite friends. But it's just sad. It's just sad. Like, they truly, at least for me, you know, for the next game Interest puts out, I'm not buying it day one. You know, I'm not pre-ordering the game at all. I just feel very, very ripped off in a way with MK1. You know, I can't say I haven't got my money's worth. I played it a lot. Because the gameplay itself, like I said, is pretty fun. In spite of the cameos, it is very fun. But, no. No, as a package, it's very poorly executed. So for the next game, I'm most definitely not buying it at launch. I'm going to wait and see if it has every game mode, you know, crossplay, lobbies, rooms, online practice during the quay while you're waiting for matches and ranked, so you can practice. That's been a standard for the longest time, and NRS has yet to do it. You'll see if the game's buggy or not. I'm just gonna be very cautious with the next game. And I don't like saying that because I'm a huge Mortal Kombat fan. I've been playing these games since I was a kid, but I just can't essentially waste my money on this franchise anymore. You know, even with if they were to come up with Injustice 3, I still wouldn't buy that. Just with any game they put out as a whole, I'm just gonna have to wait. until I just see it's a fully complete package. Because that's all I want from a video game, really. You know, for it to be fully complete, feature-rich, bug-free, right? I just want a good game. You know, like a good fighting game. NRS, they're like the pioneers of being ahead of the curve of what a fighting game can be, and now they're just behind. They're behind Street Fighter, they're behind Tekken. You know, Tekken's issues just stem from competitive play, to be honest, and the rank system. The game as a whole is complete, so that's why I can be like, okay, Tekken 8 isn't that bad, and Street Fighter is just objectively the best fighting game of the three this generation. But when we look at Mortal Kombat 1 specifically, the competitive scene was bad. The casual scene, pretty much non-existent. They just didn't think of anybody. You know, this was a shameless cash grab. Especially with the premium store prices. They were charging $10 for a single skin. And I think, what, $12 for a fatality. Until they got all the backlash. And you get, oh no, you pay $12 for the whole pack. But we got to know that was bullshit. Everybody knows that was bullshit. You know, they were definitely going to charge $12 per fatality. And that's just, it's ridiculous. You know, they're milking their fans for all it's worth. You know, they just kind of stopped caring. I know the monetary side is definitely WB, but the game itself is definitely the NRS team. They really fumbled the bag on this one, per se. And yeah, I just realized this whole video is going to be ranting about MK1. I'm talking about MK11. Wow. Perhaps in another video, I'll talk about MK11. Actually, let's talk about MK11. And why I prefer it to Mortal Kombat 1. This has gone on for... Well, actually, no, I'll just do that now. Well, no. Next video, sorry. Kind of went on this unscripted, just thinking about the state of the game. And, just... how bad everything's gotten, you know, for the Mortal Kombat franchise as a whole. You know, but MK1 specifically has just been very disappointing to see. Very disappointing. It's just, yeah. I just hope that in the future, the next game, whatever title NRS pursues, Mortal Kombat Injustice, perhaps some new thing, you know, some new franchise they can work on, kind of experiment a bit. I just hope the next title is far better than MK1. I just hope it's, at the very least, a complete package. But that was my more or less rant, kind of divulging my thoughts on the current state of Mortal Kombat 1 and the franchise as a whole, and NRS. I just hope the future is better. You know, I hope they reveal something at Summer Games Fest or the Game Awards or anything really, just to give their fans a glimmer of hope. But that was my more or less rant, divulging my thoughts on the franchise as a whole and all of that. Thank you guys for listening, and yeah, I'll be posting more videos, of course, playing MK11, maybe some more MK1. There's still the game. Once more, the game's fun, just kind of disappointing. Possibly some more MK11, MKX for sure. And yeah, you know, thank you guys for watching, and that was my take on everything. So thank you.